across the fence, accidents happen, especially on the farm. That's why young Vermonters are getting lifelong lessons in life-saving situations. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Words like wholesome and healthy are often used to describe life on the family farm. While these words reflect an ideal, farms are far from hazard-free. Agriculture is the most hazardous industry in the United States, according to the National Safety Council. And when it comes to farm safety, children are not immune to the dangers of farm life. UVM Extension 4-H conducts classes on tractor and ATV safety specifically for young people. 4-H Safety Day makes sure participants learn about handling animals, fire safety, and first aid firsthand. Across the fences, Keith Silva has the story.
There you go.
A rainy day doesn't dampen the spirits of 4-Hers, especially if there's a fire to put out.
You always want to aim for the base because that's where the fire starts.
That's got it. Hey, we got a fire up here.
Proper use of a fire extinguisher is one of several trainings at 4-H Youth Farm Safety Day. Participants were also receiving instruction about tractor safety, first aid, and how to handle animals. Each workshop makes the most of 4-H's signature teaching tool, learning by doing.
So who knows how to tie slip knots?
Martha Seifert is the 4-H educator in Middlebury.
You can explain how something works, but until they actually handle it themselves and do it themselves, like I saw some of them trying to squeeze without pulling the pin on the fire extinguishers. That's a perfect example of if we give them the hands-on training, they will know, okay, I've got to pull the pin first and then squeeze. So it's the actual experience is what triggers in their mind when an event happens where they have to use it.
That's got it.
The message Seifert wants young people to take home is to slow down.
Most of the time accidents happen because you're in a hurry. So stop, think about it, and you'll still get it done. We're a life skills organization, so we're teaching the kids some life skills that they can use from here on out.
Carissa Livingston is a member of the New Haven 4-H Dairy Club. She's taking what she's learning here to heart.
It means you need to watch where everybody else is. And most of the time when things don't feel safe, which happens a lot, kind of, I just kind of stop.
Chris's sister, Braylee, is also aware of the best way to stay safe.
Stay calm, call 911, and help the people that are helping you.
It's not a good thing to be in the way of. It's
taking part in the tractor safety workshop is Bo Jeffrey. He's sharing with the younger 4-Hers what he learned at the UVM Extension 4-H Youth Tractor Safety Certification course.
Well, since I work at a farm and drive tractors, it helps me be safe and helps keep people around me safe, I guess, too. Be aware of your surroundings, I guess.
911, fire. Okay.
4-Hers were fired up to learn about fire safety.
Okay, grab your extinguisher.
Jeff Nelson is a fire investigator in Addison County and works for cooperative insurance companies in Vermont.
Cooperative has supported UVM Extension because we feel we have similar goals to support and promote agriculture within the state of Vermont. Well, unfortunately, fire is the leading cause of death and serious injury in the U.S., even with the advent of better quality smoke detectors and better building codes, better fire safety. Unfortunately, farms are more of a risk because they have a lot more operations. They have significantly higher fuel load. They can have larger structures that are more at risk of a large fire.
You can yell louder than that.
Nelson taught the pass method to use a fire extinguisher. Pull the pin, aim the nozzle, squeeze the handle, and sweep from side to side. Nelson hopes the 4-Hers won't need this information, but if they ever do, they need to be ready.
Any young person can dial 911, and a young person can alert their family that there's a potential issue. I grew up on a farm. It was drilled into me from an early age that you're part of this farm. You are an active member. We hope that it makes a huge difference from the standpoint of teaching children that they can have an active role in the farm and farm safety. As a former 4-H'er myself, you can never start too young.
ATV, UTVs.
The farm hosting this event is Railview Dairy in New Haven. In 2014, a fire broke out here in the early morning. Don Livingston remembers that day.
We had a barn fire that, fortunately it could have been much worse. We were, very lucky in the fact that nobody was hurt. There was some equipment lost. There was a building lost. Our children did experience that, right from the start. I think it was a good experience for them because they could see, that accidents happen, things happen. You have to be prepared for emergencies and you have to know how to act on them.
We didn't notice at first.
Carissa Livingston, Don's daughter, has vivid memories of that day.
It was really scary and really sad. Nobody really saw it until it was almost fully engulfed. So it was kind of like a whole loss.
Some of the demonstrations at 4-H Safety Day took place in the new barn. For Dawn, the new barn is a reminder of what can happen.
We're living proof that it can happen to anybody at any time. Teaching the kids what could happen before it does and teaching them how to handle a situation is so important because if they find themselves in an emergency or in a situation, they can think back to, okay, what have I learned from 4-H and, what did I learn from Farm Safety Day and what do I need to do to handle this situation? Fires can happen to anybody at any time. And just having a clinic like today to teach kids how to handle that is really important because, like I said, you just never know. Nobody is immune to it.
4-H Safety Day is one day these 4-Hers won't forget. It's the kind of information to certainly keep in mind, just in case. In New Haven, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Well, thanks, Keith. Joining me now is one of the coordinators of 4-H Safety Day. Martha Manning is a 4-H educator based in Franklin County. Great to see you again.
Thank you.
Is Safety Day an annual event?
We hold 3 safety days each summer, and I'm joined by my counterparts, Lindy Birch, who's out of the Newport Extension office, and Martha Seifert, who's out of the Middlebury office. And we hold 2 of these events on farms, and we hold the 3rd one in conjunction with a 4-H clinic or activity. And they're open for youth ages 10 to 18. And we're always looking for new host sites if anyone is interested in having us do an event at their location.
So what topics are covered?
So we cover fire safety, which you saw in the video. We cover safe handling of livestock. We cover some basic tractor and machinery safety, as well as basic first aid and CPR.
And so what do the participants learn in the fire safety session?
As you saw in the video, we talked to them about fire safety and what the components of the fire triangle, and we also teach them the PASS method, which is that they need to pull the pin, aim the fire extinguisher at the base of the fire, squeeze, and sweep. And so most of these youth have never had the opportunity to operate a fire extinguisher, and at the Livingstons, even though they had experienced a fire, the grandmother, who was our hostess for the day, joined us in learning how to operate a fire extinguisher. So we encourage the adults to participate as well.
Why is it important for young people to learn about tractor and machinery safety?
Well, any youth between the ages of 14 and 16 who is going to work on a farm owned by anyone other than their parents is required by law to complete a tractor certification program that's offered either through Cooperative Extension or through a VOAG program. And while this program doesn't offer the certification, it's an introductory point for that program. We also talk with them about hearing protection around equipment, and each youth goes home with hearing protectors, and we then will follow up with them in about 6 months to ask if they've actually been using their hearing protection.
Because you say that you should actually use the protection even operating a lawnmower.
Even a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And we actually have a little device that the youth can use during the workshop to test different items to see if they need hearing protection. And we also talk about the fact that in some school cafeterias, it's loud enough that hearing protection could be warranted.
Interesting. Well, can you tell me a little bit about what's covered in the first aid session?
We talk about first aid kits and whether they have a kit in their home or in their farm, what contents are needed in that to make it a good kit. And I have 2 first aid kits that I demonstrate with the youth and hold up to them and ask them which one they would like to have. And I tell them that, you know, one of them is a first aid kit like what would be in my own home, and the other one has a nice picture of a barn on it, and I ask them which would they pick. And oftentimes they pick the one that came from my home, and then I show them that when my children were living at home, when you opened it, quite often it would be empty. And we stress the point that you need to communicate with your family when you take items from the first aid kit so that it could be restocked in the event of an emergency.
And also to where the first aid kit can be found.
Where it can be found.
Right, because that's critical in a crisis.
Right, and we also have them work through different scenarios where one youth, they work as a team, and one youth will be the patient and the other one would be like the provider, the first person to be on the scene, and what they can do with a few very basic supplies to help that person until an adult or further aid is on the scene.
Let's talk a little bit about livestock, because you really have to know how to handle animals that weigh way more than you do.
Yes, and Martha Seifert demonstrated in the video that one of the things she stresses in the livestock handling is how to safely tie a quick release knot. A lot of these youth have animals they take to a fair or show or just working around the farm, so that in the event of an emergency they could quickly and safely untie that animal without them becoming entangled in the rope or without the animal hanging itself.
Right, or if the animal spooks at something,
yes,
it's safer to let the animal have some space as opposed to keep it tied up.
Yes.
And so you've been involved with 4-H and young people for decades now. What feedback do you get from children who've gone through these different workshops?
We have actually had a couple youth who have been injured, and one of them was injured with a saw and lost part of a finger, and the parents weren't at home, and when the parents returned home just shortly after it had happened, everybody was calm, and they're like, we learned what to do at the safety workshop, so we knew how to apply the pressure and how to wrap this. And just this summer we had a youth who, at the clinic, after we had done the safety training the next day, received a minor cut, and all the youth knew how to help them out.
No kidding. And so this is the time of year when many 4-H youngsters are looking forward to their county fairs and field days. Tell me a little bit about what some of the things that these participants should keep in mind while they're at a fair.
Well, it's always about the safe handling of the livestock, how to keep themselves safe, how to keep the public safe, just the basics, you know, what can happen, the fire hazards. One of the things with the fire that we talked about, it's the time of year, and especially with the weather we've had this summer, those farmers who put up square bales of hay, spontaneous combustion can be an issue. We talk about spontaneous combustion and what it is, and the need for the use of a probe to test the temperature of hay after it has been stored. So they have a good idea of, you know, things that they can do around the farm and have an impact on their farm. Because for a lot of these families, it's not just a workplace, it's that they also live at their workplace.
Right, and it's a good idea to know how to operate a fire extinguisher before there's a fire.
Yes. And we also stress with them how to call 911 and the information that the 911 operator is going to need. And on a farm, it may not be as simple as your street address. You've got to be able to get those responders to the exact location, which, you know, it may mean out in a field, it may mean somewhere in your barn. And so the youth work to learn what information they need to give and how to assist the responders.
How can families learn more about 4-H programs?
Well, you can go on the web and go to uvm.edu/extension, or you can give us a call on the 800 number, 1-800-571-0668.
And you want to hear not only from potentially kids, but also families who might want to become involved or volunteers.
Yes, and we also want to hear from those families who may have a youth who would just like to join any 4-H project.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.